Oh, good afternoon, Warriors. Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well today and staying on your purpose, your plan. I'm taking a break. I was outside working on we have a little bit of a swing, a old oak wood swing. And I'm sanding it and kind of getting it down so we can go ahead and stain it and make it look nice for my granddaughter, and moving kind of in that direction. And so I have a couple weeks off from school starting again and consulting and all that kind of stuff. So figured I'd get some stuff down around the house. We finished our porch, and now we're working on this project. So taking a break, but I figured I'd had so many great responses yesterday that I wanted to first say thank you guys for all the great responses that you gave. We are over 450 now, so that's wonderful. Thank you guys so much for all that, and I greatly appreciate that. There's a lot of topics that came from this, all the great comments you guys have been making. And Dex, I owe you a great deal. I guess that we get, if I put the word semen retention in a title, you get more responses. So it looks like we're going to start doing that, and kind of having that in there so people actually know exactly what we're talking about here. But first, go ahead and comment, continue with doing what you're doing. We have lots of things on the horizon because of all the great comments we're having. So in the future, now today we're going to focus on one, and I'm going to call it edging and semen retention, because we had Tyrone and Joshua and Ryder271 made some great comments about edging. So we're going to talk about that first. But also, I don't want to forget about Ranch Dance. It had a nice comment that I want to kind of talk about as well. And then Junior and I think that Carl also had a comment about real effects. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that from one of the videos we did on real or myth. And then also Manuel Strong did one on anger management, so we're going to talk about that. And then prostrate and retention, friends and tantra and retention. Also, I saw a video by Artistic Motivation that I liked, saying having confidence in semen retention, and also using cues to help semen retention. So we got a bunch of them we're going to do. But today we're going to talk about the one that we're talking about with Tyrone and Joshua and at Ryder. So this one's going to be called edging and semen retention. So let's talk about this one a little bit. So excellent comments. I think Joshua had a question to kind of start this a little bit, talking about, and we've talked about this before, but I want to kind of focus on this a little bit more. So as we talk about this, he was talking more about releasing, especially at night, and how that really affects you. And I think that in Ryder's case, Ryder271, he was mentioning that you have a horrible day afterwards. And I think that there's a lot of truth in what he's saying as well. And in Tyrone's case, he was kind of talking about, well, what happens on leakage and things like that. So let's talk about all those kind of together as we do this. So as we look at this whole issue and we look at this kind of idea of retention, we're really kind of talking about the fact that any sort of reaction that your body has, your mind sees something, right? Your mind sees something and then you react to that. Well, that is telling the body to get ready for something. We talk about this whole idea of getting excited, all these type of things we're talking about. You're really talking about focusing on the idea that your body is getting ready to procreate, and that's what all this is kind of set up for. And so as it gets ready to do that, that's what it's expecting to do. So if you see someone who's attractive, if you see this type of thing, or if you're seeing a picture, then this is how you're going to react to it. So it doesn't really matter necessarily if you're talking about edging or getting close to it or anything like that. You're basically still in that mode, and that's kind of what you want to prevent. Now, as I said before, within, let's see, I'm at 781 days now, I think it is. Around the, I don't know, 500 mark, I decided to go totally in monk mode because I had done a lot of the other stuff and it just did not work effectively. And as Ryder said, you would still have horrible days afterwards because your body is conditioned then to go ahead and, expect something. And all of a sudden then it came back and, you're not really transmuting it. And so I think sometimes what happens is people, when they're edging, they're forgetting to transmute. And that's part of the issue. Part of it is just not a good idea. I know a lot of there's videos out there saying it's okay to do it and everything. It's not as far as I'm concerned. And in my idea is it's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do to me, and this is not easy to do, but the right thing to do to me is to go to monk mode and to basically kind of try to eliminate as much as possible all the thoughts, all the ideas that can kind of lead to this idea. Many years ago, we had a lot of ideas about celibacy. Now you look at brahmacharya and sophism, all these type of things that I've learned more about over the years. And you always go back to the idea of trying to get your mind and focusing on bettering yourself, kind of focusing on your own purpose, focusing on trying to get yourself to a spot that you're becoming more effective. You're not chasing people. And I've seen lots of videos on the problem with this, and that men who are simping and just kind of following and chasing women around, and A, women have no respect for that, and B, those men are just losing energy like crazy. They're becoming less of men as they go along, and that's what you don't want to do that. So when we talk about all this, I think that it is your body is reacting negatively. It is hard to do, and we all have problems with that. In fact, after about 200 days, I relapsed when I came to monk mode. And so now I'm back on day, I think 20 or something like that, 19 to 20. And so again, I'm trying to kind of start a new streak with monk mode. But when we're talking about monk mode, guys, we're talking about trying to totally eliminate your ideas and just try to get away from all of that. Not easy in our world, very difficult. That's why we got the 1% club. But I'm trying to put myself at my age to a higher level of expectation and going full blast. Now that I see the advantages and the positiveness of all this after 780 some days, I can just basically say that you should go full blast on this. Now, what does that mean? Obviously, in my case, I'm married with 3 kids, and we're not having any more children, and so we're at the point where this is not as much of an issue for me. And this is one of the things that in Kendler's book they talked about, the Fountain of Youth book, and I have to go back and do one of those, and I haven't yet. But we talk about the fact that you have to be ready for this type of thing. And it's the 6th rite, and I wasn't ready until I was 57 years old. And now I'm more ready than I is. Now, yes, I did fall back out of monk mode, but the idea still is that it's a lifestyle change you want to continue with. And that's the whole thing. So I think, Ryder, you're exactly right. I would not edge. So to my point, the point that I'm making is that you need to kind of try to go to monk mode. I don't believe that's going to help you. Now, I will say this much, because for me it was a transition. I had to take it one step at a time because it was very difficult. And just like anything else, when you're quitting smoking or you're quitting, chewing tobacco, I know some of you have an addiction in that. You can't just go cold turkey. But if your long-term purpose is to stop completely, then you've got to try to get all these things out of your life systematically. Whether it's edging, whether it's looking at pictures, all this type of stuff. So you have to quit it all, because that's the only time you're going to get the full effects of what's going on here. And so, Tyrone, I think that we'll talk about this. I believe in Joshua's question, I think the only time that it's not something that is obviously your responsibility totally is when you're dreaming. And I've had a couple videos, and I go back to a couple of those videos, go back on that. If you want to go back and look at some of my videos on that, I think that, those type of things are not necessarily your fault. That's something that's put in your brain, and you just react. Now, I've heard some people say that's kind of an overflow. I'm not sure about that one, whether that's really an overflow or not. I would not count that in my relapse. I did that when I was younger, and I've had that experience at least, I think, once or twice. But the idea that you want to do is you want to go ahead and kind of say, okay, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to use monk mode, and I'm going to go full blast, and I'm going to go ahead and say, you know, I'm not going to do these type of things, and I'm not going to think about these things. I'm not going to let the birds fly over my head, and I'm going to try the best I can to kind of move ahead, do my things. And you do that by keeping active, keeping busy, doing all these type of things that are going to make you stronger in the long run. And that means, you know, becoming the kind of person that you want to become. So I think it's a great question from Tyrone and Joshua and Ryder271, all great comments, and I appreciate the comments you guys are making. The bottom line really is that you want to stay away from all this as much as possible. Focus on yourself. Now, doing that, as I warned before, one of the benefits is superpower attraction. Now, as we talked about in the last video, some people struggle with that power, and they end up abusing it by becoming, you know, more active in the behavior they're trying to say no to, right? But the thing is, you have to kind of look at this and say, okay, this is a nice compliment, it's flattering, but it's also something you need to stay away from. And I think that's the toughest decision you got to make. So if you're not ready for that, then you might just have to kind of use, you can't obviously go monk mode, but you're going to try to do something to try to continue to do it at a slower pace, or at least try to curb yourself from doing as much as you do. And that's the key. So once again, thank you, Tyrone. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Ryder271. I appreciate all your great comments. And my viewpoint again is that I used to do this a lot, and I would say no, you should not edge, and you should go ahead and you use monk mode. And that to me is the best way to operate. But that's from my perspective. So please, I encourage you to look at all videos, look at all information on this, and find out, make your own decision on this. But certainly I think that you can't go wrong by going totally monk mode. All right, my friends, thank you guys for your comments again. And until next time, guys, have a great day and battle on.